Welcome to this Twitter space on the 18th of April 2023. It's a week after Easter holiday, and I hope we are all still in the mood. Over 100 days gone in the year. So I hope you have something to report about what you are doing in this year. Um, Today's Twitter space, we have a very interesting topic, and for the first time, we have a guest. This is the very first time. I think this is the 8th edition. This is the very first time we have a guest, an Awestruck speaker. I'll be telling you about him later, and after that, I will first introduce the topic, and then I'll tell you about him later, and then we'll open it up, and then I will get to share a few things. After that, we'll get to have questions, Q&A, and then we close it. Okay, yeah. So that is how we are going to flow. Yeah. All right. So to get us started, our topic for today is how to end modern day corporate slavery. So you're about to find out what that is all about and how that can be done. Now, when you talk about why this topic, when you talk about slavery, most of us go to the transatlantic slavery that happened between 1526 to 1867, where 12.5 million Africans were taken from our continent to the Americas, and then and so they had to grow sugar canes. They worked in cotton fields, and that one was characterized by slavery, which is exploitation of one human being by another human being. And that movement has stayed on. It was abolished, but it has stayed on, and you can see it through the resistance and rebellion of the black people in America, and also things like the Black Lives Matter is really a residue of the transatlantic slavery that happened so many years ago. But we're not talking about that kind of slavery. We are talking about modern day corporate slavery, because you will be amazed that slavery hasn't gone out. It hasn't gone away. It has just evolved. Okay, it might not be as it was, but it has just evolved. So, to introduce our speaker today, the very first speaker of our Twitter Spaces is a man that I've come to learn from a lot, that I bounce off lots of ideas, and when I'm with him, I take notes. I'm not coach. I take notes. I know you may disagree, but this is my time to speak. So, he is the country manager of DB Schenker. DB Schenker is a leading freight and logistics company in over 50 countries. If you own a business, you know that is big. He has been the coach and assessor at the School of Leadership at Worship Harvest Institute. That was from 2019 to 2022. He worked as a trade manager and market analyst with Mass Kenya. His work has taken him to so many countries, of course: Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Sudan, Somalia, India, UAE, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Mauritius, UK, to name but a few. He's a father, he's a husband, and he loves his faith, and is the author of 2 books. One is still is yet to be published. I've had the opportunity to go through it. But there's one that has been published already. It's on the market. It's called "So You Are Done with Uni? What Next?" or now what, or what next. Okay, I've read the book. It is mind-boggling. I would ask you to read it. Okay, so I will ask. That gentleman is none other than Mr. Nyombi Alan. So, Alan, you're very welcome. I'll ask you to unmute and say hello to the listeners.
Thank you so much for the introduction and for the invitation to speak in this space. I don't take it for granted that I am the first speaker. Wow, that's a lot of pressure on me. But thank you so much for the invitation, and I look forward to a great evening.
All right. It's a pleasure having you here. So we'll get straight. We'll get straight to the topic of today. Earlier today, I was before most of the people came on, I was playing a song titled "Redemption Song" by Bob Marley, the late Bob Marley, and he's talking about emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None can, I've forgotten the lines there, but he's talking about emancipating ourselves from mental slavery. None can free us except ourselves. Okay? Now, none can free us except ourselves. And I remember when I shared with you, Alan, this topic, I remember there's something that you brought out, and I think we'll start from there. And it's from Prison Break. And you told me about where this gentleman was saying that we are our own, we are captives of our own identity, living in prisons of our own creation. So with that, I would like to open it up to you to define for us what is actually who is a corporate slave, first of all, before we even go anywhere. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Coach. The line that you quote is one of my favorite movie lines. It's by a movie character called T-Bag. We are captives of our own identity, living in prisons of our own creation. So, to me, a corporate slave is not so far from that definition. What happens is when you're done with school, the objective is to get into the corporate world. You want a job that pays you to dress nicely, go in an office, and enjoy life. And God is good. We always get the jobs. And what happens is after the job comes in, it pays you enough because organizations factor in what you're going to do, where you're going to live, what car or what means you should use to get to work, and all that sort of thing. So they pay according to that level. And so the job pays you enough to live a modest life. However, you soon find out that there are people who are living a life that is better than yours. So you borrow to fill that gap, to get to their levels. They're dining at normal every other Friday. You want to fit in that lifestyle, yet your pay doesn't match it. So you borrow to do that. Then you start overshooting your budget, you get into huge loans, and you become a failure. And then what happens is you start looking for another job with the hope that it will meet your new lifestyle. And you get it, and then the cycle continues. You start again living a modest life, and then you find out you're in a different category. So it becomes a cycle. So to me, that's what modern slavery is. It's that unending loop that you find yourself in once you join the corporate world, where there is no exit for you. However, it's just continuously you looking for ways of surviving within that loop.
Wow. Thanks for defining. Thanks, Alan, for defining that. Now, to me, that sounds like if I get in, I get the job. It's all fine. I'm actually not a slave. At what point do I cross from being someone that is seeking to grow within the corporate world and learn all about the system, and where do I get to become a slave? How do I know I'm actually a slave?
To me, you're a slave the moment there's no purpose to it. The moment what you're doing doesn't serve your life purpose or what you believe you should be doing, and you're doing it for the sake of survival or for the sake of how will I face tomorrow, what will I use to pay school fees for my children, and that sort of thing, then you've become a slave to the corporate world, because then you can't leave it. You tied to it. You by all means, you can't afford not to be in it, because your whole existence is stuck to one thing: being in that corporate world. If you're doing it and you're enjoying it and you grow through the ranks, you're doing one job today, you get a promotion. 3 years down, 5 years down the road, you get another promotion, and you're scaling your you're going up, and you're getting promotions every other time, and you're enjoying what you're doing, and life is good for you. Then it's not slavery per se. I am not one of those who say that employment is slavery, and I'm glad that you did not call this modern day employment slavery. But it is that when you enter into the corporate world and you have no other thing to do other than to staying for your survival, that's when it becomes slavery.
Wow. Thanks so much for that. So, in a nutshell, you're saying having a job does not make you a corporate slave, but living as if your entire life depends on it does make you a corporate slave.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so I think now we know who a corporate slave is. Now, let me for those that have just hopped on, let me just give you a bit of background on how the modern corporate world was born. So I want you to imagine the year is 1903, and there is this conglomerate. His name is Ford, and he's starting his automobile company somewhere in Montgomery, and he needs workers because he has a factory and he needs to make so many cars. But the people that are there are farmers by and large. He goes to them, talks to them, and he tells them, "You guys, give me 30 years of your life, and I'll give you work for me for 30 years, and I'll give you a pension when you retire." A pension is money that you're given when you're no longer in service. For those of you that, for starters, that don't understand what pension is. So in 1903, what we know as the corporate world was born, where, now people stop going to their gardens. They start to go and work what we call the 9 to 5 jobs today. And then from then onwards, it has been taken on by every sector. And these days, they do not need to promise you pension for them to make you work. No, they give it to you and you work. Okay. And so that's why we are saying that you need to find purpose in it and ask yourself, where am I going? How do I transition? What exactly brought me here? Okay. Now, I'd like to again bring in Alan and ask a question. Now that I've given that background, and we've evolved today, question is, at which level within the organizations, because you've been in the corporate world for a very long time. I left it quite a number of years ago, but you're there right now. How do you know that, okay, this employee is on the verge of getting to slavery, or this one is already a slave? How do you differentiate the two?
I'll use another quote from a movie that was released in the year 1959. It's called Ben-Hur. There's a gentleman in that movie called Quintus Ari. He says to the guys on, it's a boat, it's a vessel, and tells them, "Listen to me, all of you. You are all condemned men. We keep you alive to serve this ship. So row well and live." And in brief, he was telling them the only reason you are alive is to serve the ship. If you do a good job, you live. If you do a bad job, you die. When does someone know that they are in slavery in the corporate world? As long as you're doing it because you have to live, that's to me slavery. As long as the job that you're doing is is your means for survival, then I can and in the corporate world it's easy to tell who is doing it for survival and who is really enjoying their work. Coach, I hope I'm understood here. For when people are starting out in their jobs, I do not advise them so much to say, this won't treat me well, I can't be a slave to this job, me, this is what I want, this is what I want. Because in the early stages, people are going to find themselves with the biggest need is to start somewhere and get some mentor who will guide them in where to go. But if you've been at it 1 year, 2, 3 years, and the only reason is still you wake up every morning, you feel you don't want to go, you feel like what you're doing doesn't add any value, and you're working for an organization that you feel like doesn't even stand for the values that you personally stand for, but you still have to go for because you need cassava for today and fish for tomorrow, then that is slavery.
All right. And my other question would be, we've seen, and in my work as a coach, I've seen this trend go on where, and I mean, this is the worst case of corporate slavery I'd ever seen. So we are down in Mombasa, and we're conducting a training. So we get to the session where we're asking for feedback, and one of the ladies puts up the hand and says, you know what, my boss sleeps with me every day in exchange for money, and I'm tired of it. I cannot get out of it because I need the money. I need to pay fees. And it was as if a needle had dropped in that place. I mean, the place went quiet. I'd never heard of it. I'm confused. I'm thinking, okay, in this place, in this moment, what do you do? Okay. And now, going by the rule of the book, at that point, you stop the training and then you carry out an investigation. But before carrying out the investigation, I wanted to see whether there are other women in the audience that had been affected by the same. So, first of all, I asked her, Ma'am, is it okay for me to ask you a couple of questions for the benefit of you and the rest of the people that are seated in this audience? Okay. Now, this is going on, and the men, they don't know. They are dumbfounded. The women are crying. Some of them are in disbelief. And I asked her the first question. And the first question was, does your husband know that this is happening? And she said, yes, my husband knows. Like, what did he say? He said, you know what? I should continue doing this so that we can pay fees for our children. The husband said, it's okay, continue. Okay? As if that was not enough, okay? The rest of the ladies, they start shooting up their hand. They say, you know what? That has happened to me with the same guy, with the same guy, with the same guy, with the same guy. Okay. And I asked her, what led you here? And she said, you know what? I took a loan, and then I still had to take care of my children. And then I borrowed and I borrowed, and the loan accumulated, and I came into a cycle. Now, and I've not had a more gross case of corporate slavery, but I realized that I've had so many stories about where debt keeps people in a place where they do not want to be. Can you say something in that line?
Well, that's such a sad story to hear about, and it's true. It's happening in the corporate world. Majority. I have a friend of mine who is working for an organization for the last 7 years. He's been trying to leave the organization for the last about 4 years, but he can't, because one day the banks, like they normally do, sent pretty girls to their office and interested him in a loan. And the money was good, and they had so many nice words to say, interest rates of about 18, and hey, you get a lot of money and you don't have to have anything. to live with the bank, no collateral, nothing, no security. And he took a loan, and he doesn't even know where the money went, apart from having bought one of those Subaru cars. And but he's tied to the company for as long as he has the debt. He wants to clear the debt before he leaves. His salary is stuck to it, and the company also knows it. So it's kind of slavery, because opportunities have come for him to go and do what he feels like he needs to be doing, but he finds himself not able to leave, because one of the clauses says he's going to pay a lot of money if he changes jobs or something like that. And I look at it, and it's exactly what slavery is. When organizations employ someone at any level, they factor in what that person needs. They factor in what you need for you to be comfortable. So they know that if you are joining an organization to work in this role, you need to be paid this amount of money. Basically, what an organization is doing, they pay for your food, they pay for where you stay, they pay for the transport, they pay for your clothes, they pay for everything that concerns you, because they need you to eat, to come to work, they need you to sleep sound so that you can go to the next day and work. They need you to be able to brush your teeth, they need you to be able to get to work. So they factor in all these things, and they say the salary for that role is this. Now, because they can't pay it directly to the people that are giving you these services, they give it to you, and they trust that you are going to be able to pay on their behalf to whoever you choose to be the service provider. However, because when we enter the corporate world, we find people like Coach Sudesh is driving a nice car, he's putting on these nice clothes, and he's hanging out with this kind of people. We want to live in their lifestyle. And so what happens is we borrow to fill the deficit between what the company thinks that's the match for our position to what we think that's where we need to be. And that leaves us with loans, and we have people that we need to be paying. We can't pay because we're borrowing a lot more to fit into a lifestyle that is not ours. And that's where slavery kicks in from, in the form of loans. If you can manage your life without going overboard, without going into the loans, and you say, this is what I'm going to be doing. My offer for this organization is to do ABCD. I'm going to do ABCD. This is what they're going to pay me. It can be able to pay off ABCD in my life. And then, as I look forward to growing more into another role or into another organization, then you'll have avoided that trap in big measure.
Okay, thanks so much for that. And by the way, the hashtag is it's hashtag end corporate slavery, and we are going through. We're discussing so many things. I don't have time to recap everything that we've discussed so far. But if you have any questions, you can go to our Twitter page. The handle is @ConsultSudesh. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, we're about to open it up for questions and contributions, and then we continue. But before I open it up to the rest of our listeners to ask a few questions and make contributions and supplements, I'd like to still go back to the fact that you do not have to be an entry-level person to be a corporate slave. Slavery starts in the mind, like I was talking about, where Bob Marley was saying that emancipate yourself. What's that song? Yes, it says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Dun, 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 dun. The words are lost. But it's all in the mind. It starts in the mind, and they are found anywhere. Okay, like I was saying, today you're hearing so many scandals going on in our government, and sometimes it's just a top executive a top executive can be a slave, a middle level manager can be a slave, or an entry level person. It's about the mindset. Now, moving on. What is Alan? What are those 2 or 3 practical steps that if I find myself, if I can identify with you and say, look, I don't really understand why I'm here. I just find myself in cycles. I am paying the money. I feel I cannot leave the job. I have debt. I have this. And sincerely, when I look at the way I want to get out someday, okay, I have a client who told me that they told me, I want to get out of the corporate world one day because my children are grown, but I don't know how to get out. Okay, what are those practical steps that if I took today, I can start freeing myself, and then I will be free and help other people? What are those, from your experience? What can you share with us?
Thank you, Coach. I think by the time you come to that realization, that's a very good step. Most people never ever come to the realization that they need to, that they're in slavery. It never dawns on them that, I'm caught up in this. So I've worked with people who have worked in the same role for years and years, and they've been unhappy for about 7 of those years or more. But they continue working in the same role because they know if I change jobs, I might not like where I've gone. I may not like the boss. Despite the fact that they've changed jobs in that role, they are not leaving the organization because it's always safer where and that limits people from moving. And I think it goes to what you said, that slavery starts in the mind, and it's at all levels. I've been reminded of a story of one of the people that I know who, after they finished school, had this nice retail shop, the kiosks that you have around your homesteads and estates, and he was making a lot of money. But his dad was like, no, I didn't educate you to do that. I need you to close shop. I need you to go and look for a job. Why? Because the dad was still caught up in the same corporate slavery that you need to be in the corporate world for you to be successful in life. So I think the first thing you need to realize is, especially I don't know how your listeners are from everywhere, but I'm a man of faith, is that you are not your own source. And at the moment you realize that, you take things back to God, and you say, what, let this be the guiding step. But then you have to start seeing the end in mind. What do you want to achieve? A year down the road, 2 years down the road, how do you want your life to be defined? In the book that you just quoted that I wrote, So You're Done with Uni What Now, one of the things I advocate for is Steve Harvey's, I think it's a 7th law. Begin with the end in mind. Always see the end. What do you want to achieve in the job that you have? Where is it taking you? I normally tell people, every time I take on a job, I give myself time and I say, for this role, I'm going to work at it in about 4 years or 3 years, and then I'll be done with it. And in those 3 years, this is what I want to achieve. I want to do ABCD, and once I'm done with ABCD, I'll be out of here. And except for maybe one role where I short my time by a year, the rest of the roles I have done so much where I wanted them to be, because I'm always seeing the end. I always want to understand what it is that I've been brought in to solve, because that's why I'm employed, to solve something. And then I do a mental calculation of what it's going to take me, and I mentally prepare that in this time I'll have solved this problem. Either I'm going to get a new job or I'm going to move on to another role. That way I'm not stuck at in the same role because I'm thinking that is it for me. So that's the first thing, is thinking about tomorrow, about the end. The second thing is learning new skills. I mean, if you are doing a job and all you know how to do is that job, you're going to be stuck in that job forever. But if you learn new skills, go out there, learn how to be a salesperson, learn how to do public speaking. Once opportunities come up, you start figuring out what exactly you like. One of the reasons as to why we get stuck in the corporate world is because we do not know what it is that we really want. We don't know our purpose, we don't know our passions. And because of that, you find yourself stuck in a role because that's what is available. Not because it's what you want to do, not because it is where you really want to spend your time with. But the moment you start giving yourself to learning and say, okay, I may not like this role, but it's what is bringing bread today. What else can I learn? You go out there and you interact with people. What are you doing? I am a coach. What does that entail? And then you learn that. And then you figure out, maybe I like this. And then maybe you don't, no, not really. And then you go out and interact with salespeople, interact with other people until you find that thing that drives you, that you can go wake up every morning to go and work at without even being paid. That's when you know you found purpose. So you work on finding purpose. You have the end in mind. You learn other skills. You get an entrepreneurship mindset. And most times people confuse that with leave your job and go and become entrepreneur. And people have burnt their hands a lot by doing that. And I am not an advocate of that everyone needs to be an entrepreneur. I mean, who will employ others? And also, employment itself is not bad. And I think I keep on saying that employment is not bad. People need to know that. I mean, you gain knowledge from other people and they are paying you for it. So if you are employed in the wrong job, then you're not going to gain the right knowledge. But if you find a great job and you start learning, you get paid. You are offering your services, but you're paid and you're also learning. You get to interact with people. You get to build your relationships. So use that to your advantage. Develop an entrepreneurship mindset. Run your job as if it's a company. You incorporated, and then start seeing things the way you would if you are the CEO of the organization called you incorporated. What changes do you have to make to your lifestyle? Maybe it is the debt that is keeping you in that that employment that you don't want. So you begin cutting off some things that would keep you indebted, and then you start living a lifestyle that matches what you need to do.
Wow, I thank you so much for that. Now, I'm glad you talked about having an entrepreneurial mindset, and also you highlighting that having one does not mean you start a business. Yeah, not everyone can start a business. Okay, you can, but it's not for everyone. I'm telling you that from experience. It's a lot of work, okay, but it doesn't mean that there are people that cannot start. There's a company that I know. It's called Mind Valley, and they have an interesting model on how to end this corporate slavery. So if you're working at Mind Valley, what they do is they'll tell you, you know what, you've worked with us 1 year, 2, 3 years. What do you like to work on that is different from what you're working on at the moment? And so, and they're a training company. You might say, I like cakes. They say, what kind of cakes? Okay, so they help you explore the idea, and they do an assessment on you. They tell you, right now you do not have the capacity to run the business, but what we'll do is that we have someone that can help run that business. We'll give you a share in that business. You continue to work here half of the time, and then you go learn from that person. Then later, when you have learned, then you can go run that business if you want. So because of that, their retention capacity has gone. I mean, they retain almost every employee that works there because you know that you can grow within the company. So I don't think the current corporate systems are that fluid to incorporate everyone. But within I've seen entrepreneurs work within corporations and rise to the top. Now, we'll open it up now for questions because our time is fast spent. Let me get some questions here for you, Alan. Simon is saying, can we please access the recording afterwards, Uncle Sudesh? Yes, you will, Simon. It will stay on here, but you can find a copy on our YouTube channel. And then Martin is saying, debt slavery or bonded labor is arguably the commonest form of slavery right now. Alan, any comment on that?
Yes, I think I do agree with Martin. debt slavery is I think it's the commonest. Most of the people that are tied to jobs, it's because of some form of debt that they have that they need to pay off, or some obligations they need to meet that they can't meet minus the job. I however have to state that I have seen others who are in the jobs not because they have debt somewhere, but because their minds have been locked into the jobs. I have told you the story of a young man that I know whose dad forced him to go to work. The dad wasn't going to really, it wasn't a money issue for the son to go and work. It was just a mindset issue. And I think that's where we get it all we get it all wrong. If the mind is not correct, it's not a matter of debt. People have got debt and have used it. In fact, someone said they don't know any rich person who doesn't have debt. I am not an advocate for debt, and in fact, I go against it at every chance that I get. But it's not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is the mind. How does one apply their mind and use it as their best weapon against slavery? Because once the mind is not correct, everything is going to go south.
Okay, and dear listeners, if you need to make a contribution, please just feel free. You can let us know, and then you make your comment. This is not just between me and Alan, so it's open to you. Okay, so we have about 6 minutes to the end of this, but feel free. Okay, at any one moment. So there's a question that has come through my text right now, and it says, most Ugandans, once they get jobs, they become comfortable. How do you stay forward thinking when you have the comfort of a job, so that it does not become your father, mother, and grandfather?
I think that's one of the first ways you get comfortable, because you just realize it's not your father, mother, grandfather, and that the same way you've been employed is the same way another person can be employed. You give it your all, and it comes back to what I said earlier. Begin with the end in mind. You've been given a job as a customer service executive in that company. What is it that is required of you? What is it that you need to achieve personally? What are your goals as far as that job is concerned? Because every time you take on a job, you need to be seeing the next step. I am a customer service executive today. Tomorrow, I want to be a customer service manager. The other day, I want to be a deputy manager. Whatever it is that you've mapped your life according to. So everything needs to be fitting into a plan. The problem is we don't like planning. We like living today, and once it's done, we wake up the next day, and once it's done, the other day. No one ever sits down to think through what do I want to do. So for me, how do you avoid that getting comfortable? Don't allow yourself to be comfortable. Do the job so well. I always advocate, leave the job when you are still needed. And how do you do that? You do the job so well that by the time you say, I have resigned, the company still needs you. Not this thing of being told we are laying off people and they're just chasing you out of the company. But if you do your job well, learn how to treat people at your level, learn how to treat people above you, learn how to treat people below you. And once you do all the basics right, keep a mindset of growth. Job is not the final thing. I have somewhere I'm going. This is just part of the story.
You know, Alan, you make this look like it is obvious, but you know that, someone comes into the job, they at first they are on point, they show up on time, you send them assignments, they deliver, and then 6 months down the road, they come in late, they steal from the job, they make excuses, like that is the reality of what actually goes on. How do you help such a person?
Prayer is not an answer for that one, eh?
No, that one does not need prayer.
Doesn't need prayer. I think it comes down to mastering a few things, Sudesh. I mean, we all get excited when there's something new. Everyone likes something new. We like a new house, a new car, a new job. Anything new is exciting. And so the treatment you give to something new is not the same treatment you give to something old. When I just got my car, I used to wash it almost every 2 days or 1 day. Now I've looked at it today and I'm like, when was this thing last washed? Because it's no longer the new car that it was. So that new mindset, I think one of the biggest struggles that we have as human beings is maintaining that fresh mindset. I subscribe to the great book, and I say renew your mind. It's that thing of renewing your mind every day to the fact that I am not going to be the person that I was yesterday, because yesterday is gone. I can't live in yesterday. I have to be the person that I am for today. And every day that you enter the office, there is an opportunity. One gentleman described it and said, every day that you wake up, it's a fresh day. You're gonna write your story the way you want it for that day, and by the time it ends, you have done it. So I really can't tell that person anything apart from renewing their minds to knowing that the things that they loved at the beginning, the things that kept them going at the beginning, they need to ensure that they're the same things that keep them going for the rest of their time in that organization. Otherwise, there's going to be peer pressure. Is not just lost on the children or the ones in school. Peer pressure is very much active in the adult life. Even when you begin off well, you start getting pressure from your colleagues at work. They'll begin calling you the girl who wants to outshine everyone. You'll begin getting pressure from people at your some level who want you to go drinking every day. They want to see you at Chadondo buying sticks for everyone. And that kind of pressure, you can't run away from it unless you renew your mind to say that, I'm going to have a good time, but I'm going to do it within these boundaries. So for me, it's a thing of renewing your mind to who you want to be or who you are every single day.
All right. I'm loving this conversation, but our time is fast spent and we have to stop here. Alan, thank you so much. I know we've learned so much from you, and the listeners can attest to that. It's been a pleasure hosting you, sir.
Thank you so much.
But before we let you go, any parting shots, any words of advice, any nuggets that you want to share with us?
Wow. There's a lot I can say, and I've captured a lot in my books. So you're done with uni. What now? I think its copies are still at Aristoc and at Book Point. But one of the things that I can leave your listeners with is I don't even know which one to pick particularly, but maybe to just tell them that every day they have a fresh opportunity to become better than they were yesterday. So grab it with both hands, write the story of what you want to do. Begin with the end in mind. I normally use a picture at the finish line, and I ask myself what's going to happen when the finish line comes. What are people going to see when the time comes for Alan to leave the earth? What are they going to say? What are they going to remember? What am I leaving behind? What's my legacy? And that drives you in some of the things that you need to do. But thanks you so much for inviting me.
Pleasure. And to all our listeners, thanks for staying until the end. It's been an outstanding show. We'll have another one in exactly 2 weeks. We've been discussing how to end modern day corporate slavery. And from Sudesh, have a lovely evening. Adios, muchachos. Bye-bye.